Hello, welcome to Jurassic Park 3 Minute. We'll be discussing the second Jurassic Park sequel, 1 minute at a time. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And today we're back to end out the week with minute 31 of Jurassic Park 3. But before we get to that, David, you've pulled out your Blu-rays and gone for a little looky.
I pulled all well, except for Jurassic Park. I have the open map 35mm print of that movie, and it's still in 1080i.
Mm-hmm.
But it's clearer. It doesn't have as much grain on it. Doesn't have any funky filters thrown over there, discoloring it, and it's true Jurassic Park. It's pretty much as I would have watched it on VHS when I was a kid, just without the boom mics and stuff cropped out.
Yeah, it is the far superior way to watch that film.
Oh, definitely. And then onto Lost World. That one I popped in the Blu-ray for. It was really nice. I forgot how vibrant and beautiful the island looks. It's got this really cool, vibrant beauty at the beginning of it when they're walking through, say, like the redwoods after the Stegosaurus attack. But then things start getting creepier and creepier, and by the time we return to the redwoods, and I discussed this when we were reviewing that during that review, was how once they return to the redwoods, it's cloudy and mist-shrouded and creepy. And one thing I really liked was how when they're regrouping in between those two moments, between the Stegosaurus and the Theaters of Death, when they're regrouping back at the ruins of the InGen camp, you can really feel the humidity in the air and the combination of the crickets and other nighttime bug noises and just even all that ambient sound. It feels like you can feel the humidity and the sogginess. Mm. And it reminded me a lot of those kind of rain-drenched midsummer camping trips from my childhood. And of course, Jurassic Park 3, I'm going to admit that it's the clearest and has the least amount of grain out of the first three, but the sound quality is not as good as the Lost World or Jurassic Park for that matter.
Yeah.
On the Lost World, all the sound is perfect. You can hear all the background chatter. It's excellent. But then you get into Jurassic Park 3, and it's just a clearer version of the DVD. It's not anything really special. The island, though, is very beautiful. I forgot how beautiful the island is when I'm not viewing it in 720. Kauai, I really got to get to Kauai someday.
Oh, yeah.
I've been to the Redwood. I got to get to Kauai. It's gorgeous. The sunny scenes. It's almost... And that's one of the problems I used to have with Jurassic Park 3 is how the daytime scenes, like we're going to talk about in this minute here, this upcoming minute, when they're walking and having the conversations, and you can see the sunlight filtering through the trees. It looks beautiful and idyllically tropical. It's just the island shouldn't, you know?
Mm.
And then I watched Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom last night. Jurassic World still looks good, but the filters, they just ruin the look of it. I mean, it just makes the movie so bland and generic, and the way that it looks visually. I mean, the movie is packed with a lot of metaphor, and I do love that, but the visually is just so boring. It has the atmospheric and cinematographic flavor of granite. It's just blah.
Yeah.
Fallen Kingdom is a little more atmospheric, but the filters, they gotta get away from those filters. It just ruins the look of the film. Fallen Kingdom would be a beautiful film without those filters.
Yeah, and it makes you sort of wonder. You got Frank Marshall, you got Steven Spielberg, you got all these people there that have years of experience, and surely they've been picking up on this stuff in editing or wherever else. Whether Colin, well, you'd think if Colin wasn't playing ball, he wouldn't have been coming back. Universal would have fired him. They would have done the whole Star Wars thing, but. It makes you wonder sometimes just how some of those decisions can come to be.
Well, something I noticed that Dean Cundey did with Jurassic Park was that he takes some of the carnivore dinosaurs like T-Rex and the Dilophosaurus and especially the raptors, and he sets a kind of a blue light against them when their faces in the shadow. You can kind of see their face. The face has this tinge of blue in the shadows. It's not like the shadows themselves that are blue, but like a blue light in the shadow that's being shined onto the prop, and it looks really cool. It's something that he did with another one of my favorite movies, and I'm actually going to watch it after this record here, is Halloween, the original 1978 version, which he also worked on with John Carpenter. And he, all the time, the night scenes have this kind of a blue light. It's not really a filter, it's like a light that is shined and filtered through like a sheet or something that really makes the film look good. And they do it on the Michael Myers mask. In the movie, you can see how this blue light shines from the shadows onto the mask, and it's a really cool effect that I think is really cool that he brought to Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I've seen you post that up on Facebook, and you could definitely see the similarities there.
And when I was watching Jurassic World, I actually thought it was funny. I actually just put together my second Jurassic Park cosplay. I had everything I needed to put together a Zach Mitchell cosplay, or a Zach Mitchell, costume. I had the red shirt, the dark blue jeans, the gray hoodie, the Converse high top shoes. I even had the Bose headphones. I have to post a picture up here. It's really funny. I was like, oh, I could do that easy. I just have to pull everything out of my closet.
That's the thing. You have people sort of spend a lot of money to maybe be more iconic characters, where sometimes a lot of your favourite characters are just wearing some pretty standard stuff.
It's not like I'd be cosplaying as a child either, because that character was not the character. The character was 16 or 15 or 16.
Sure, he was.
But the actor playing him was 19.
Yeah. Oh, very nice. I think we mentioned when we were doing Lost World, I've had the Blu-rays here for the first 3 films for years and never watched them. More so just accessibility. I've got them all on my iPad. I can watch them even though they're low quality. But it sort of warrants going back and just having a look at that good high def every now and then to sort of see what the film is meant to be. As even that that print of Jurassic Park, like I've only got that on my computer, and there's not a lot of times I can sit in front of my computer and watch the whole lot, let alone some favourite scenes from it.
Well, like I told a friend of mine, Travis, who recently joined us at Jurassicpedia on our Jurassicpedia team, I was saying that I love the VHS. I do. I mean, I love that spooky, foggy, kind of dim look, that dull look that the VHS gives. But like you said, every now and then I do like to go back and watch the movies on a visually and then with superior audio and visuals, and it does look good. You can't deny that.
Yeah.
Especially Jurassic Park. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, the Brachiosaurus sneezing on Lex does age badly, but that movie, those effects are fantastic to this day. And it makes me kind of wonder what would happen if James Cameron had gotten the gig instead of Spielberg, because he probably still would have worked with ILM and Stan Winston Studios to bring us Jurassic Park. He worked with ILM on Terminator 2 and Stan Winston Studios on Alien and Terminator.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think he worked out with him on Predator as well, or was that not James Cameron?
He gave them Stan Winston the idea of the mandibles on a plane flight.
That was right. That's right. I thought he had something to do with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we know we would have gotten those effects, but with the visual effects with ILM, would he have pushed further? Because I was just watching Avatar today, and say what you will about the film, those effects have not aged a day. Considering the movie's almost 10 years old at this point, that's very impressive how photorealistic and just real the CGI is. I mean, you can see the fingerprints on the CGI characters. You know?
Yeah, and that's why it's taken so long to do the sequel.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, well, he's also doing like all four sequels at once. So he's pulling up Peter Jackson and doing them all back to back, so he can release them consecutively every year, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But I suppose keeping on the Jurassic Park theme for a moment, I've been trying to think. Is there any? I don't think there's any films he's actually done where he's adapted someone's story. Because I wonder how that sort of thing would go. Because as you're saying, it's like, yeah, he'd be working with ILM and Stan Winston, so.
Well, knowing his style at that time of his career, I think it would have been pretty dark. It would have been an action film, but it would have been a dark, kind of horrific action film, kind of like Terminator, where there's very scary, tense moments.
Well,
I think would have stuck closer to the book in that regard, and instead of Spielberg, who gave us this kind of magical, wondrous feel, we would have gotten something more true Crichton, which would have been like that sci-fi horror feel.
Yeah, well, that's the whole Amblin side of things, and that's you look at any of the Spielberg films, he always sort of does that sort of thing, and that's fine. It still gave us the film we got, but yeah, you'd think Cameron would sort of have more of that suspense, have sort of that more techno thriller sort of angle to it, the dark science. Maybe,
I do, yeah.
Yeah, maybe InGen would have been more of a dark, evil Weyland Yutani type corporation where.
Well, that's actually kind of how they were in the book. If you recall, they kind of had this, thing in the book where they're just kind of they had accidents and dinosaurs getting loose and all kinds of stuff that they were just trying to cover up and pretend it wasn't happening.
Yeah, and it sort of bleeds briefly over into the Lost World novel as well.
Mm-hmm.
But then that's the age-old thing, the what ifs. Like, what if Harrison Ford was Alan Grant? it just you never stop once you start thinking about some of these things.
Yeah, true.
You never stop. What if Tom Selleck had been Indiana Jones? Just can't.
I mean, I watched Blue Bloods and I couldn't see it. Yeah. I mean, I like Tom Selleck as an actor, but I could not see him playing that character like Harrison Ford did. You know.
And I think we mentioned this when we sort of started with The Lost World, with sort of some of the characters and who was there, and it's for the most part when they bring characters in to replace someone or that, there's still time to rewrite the script and change what that character would be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you wouldn't have Harrison Ford coming and saying, it'd probably have some of the lines of Grant, but you wouldn't have. It'd be written for Harrison Ford, not written for Sam Neill at the time. Much the same where RoboCop was supposed to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, but they couldn't fit him in the suit before they got Peter Weller to come in, and that would have been an almost Batman and Robin script, I reckon, if that was Arnold in that suit.
Yeah, true.
We might not have got him back in Terminator 2 because he'd be pretty robot heavy in films, two separate franchises by then too.
True. Yeah, I didn't consider that, and he's. Well, originally Michael Biehn had tried out for the role of the Terminator, and Schwarzenegger the role for Kyle Reese. And then they switched. Cameron. They both came in for the audition, and Cameron's like, "We gotta make a switch here. These guys are perfect for each other's roles."
Yep, that's how history's made.
Pretty.
Anyway, we've got a minute to discuss.
That's true.
Dr. Grant, you should come look at this.
Dave, ready to get into 31?
Sure.
As we went into minute 30 of Jurassic Park 3, Billy Grant noticed Paul acting rather comedically with a backpack and approached him, challenging his earlier statement he and Amanda were keen adventurers. As we open on minute 31, Grant just asks, "There's no such thing as Kirby Enterprises, is there?" Paul replies, "It's Kirby Paint and Tile Plus. The plus stands for bathroom fixtures, tiles. We're in a strip mall in Oklahoma." Billy jumps straight to the defence. "I guess that check you wrote wasn't any good, was it?" And Paul immediately says, No, I promise I'll make it up to you guys." At the 11-second mark, Grant picks up his bag and starts to walk away, saying, "This is good. Here we are in the most dangerous place in the world and we're not even getting paid." At the 22-second mark, we cut to Paul and Udesky walking through the brush. Paul asks him, "You're not really a mercenary, are you?" Udesky replies, "I never said I was." When Paul asks, "Well, what are you?" Udesky replies, "Well, I'm kind of a booking agent. One of the guys got sick and couldn't come." At the 42-second mark, we cut to Grant walking through the trees. Paul and Amanda are behind him, and Amanda starts yelling Eric's name once again. Grant growls, "Quiet," and Paul tries to calm his wife, saying Dr. Grant says this is very bad territory. Amanda suggests, "Well, maybe we should split up or something." And Paul replies, "Dr. Grant says that's a bad idea." And Amanda starts to go into a tirade. "Dr. Grant, Dr. Grant." Paul jumps straight in. What's the point of hiring an expert if we're not going to listen to his advice? And as minute 31 ends, Amanda retorts, "Yeah, well, Dr. Grant's not looking for Eric. He's looking for the coast." As we open on minute 31, we get the rest of Paul's explanation from previous minutes. Kirby Paint and Tile Plus. The plus stands for bathroom fixtures, and we're located in Westgate Shopping Centre in Oklahoma. There he does mention a town there. You can't really hear it in the dialogue.
Enid, Oklahoma. You can hear it really well. Yeah, it's not so well you can hear it on the... I never noticed how well you can actually hear that line in the movie until I popped in the Blu-ray, and It's funny because the sound isn't the best out of them, but it is better than the VHS, which is what I've been watching previously.
Yeah, well, it's mentioned in the script as well, but again, another one of those words I wasn't quite... I was going to butcher it if I tried to say it, so thanks for that.
Fun fact, there is actually a Westgate shopping mall in Enid, Oklahoma. Ooh. I'm not sure if there's a Kirby Paint and Tile Plus there, or if there had ever been one, but there is a Westgate shopping mall in Enid, Oklahoma.
It'd be funny if there was just some sort of paint and tile or hardware store there. Although the film being what it is, I don't think you'd have a lot of fans crowding around asking, "Is Paul Kirby here?" or anything.
Just going to all the shops in that strip mall. Do you guys have Paul Kirby here? Paul Kirby. Hey, he was played by William H. Macy. You guys got William H. Macy in here?
Although then you get the trolls just walking in from door to door of a bull mic. Eric. So it's not very nice, is it? And it just goes to the next one. But I suppose it's like before when we're at the bar, how that was a real bar, a real bar location in Colorado.
So. Oh yeah, that's really there really is a Hell Creek bar.
Montana.
That's in Snakewater, Montana, on that corner. Yeah, that's actually the real bar they're using.
Yeah. And normally, sometimes when you get little things like that dropped in the films, it's an Easter egg. It's the producer might have grown up there or something. Yeah.
Or one of the scriptwriters may have.
Well, yeah, the scriptwriters do seem to get a little bit past the directors at times, with the Gremlins being in Ready Player One being a big one recently, Spielberg not knowing that was coming. As Paul's saying this, Udesky's sort of slowly approaching. This is the first time he's hearing all this as well, and he doesn't look that amused to be hearing it. But Grant's... Billy asks, "I don't suppose that check you wrote us is any good," and Grant's just smiling to himself as Paul tries to say you were on it. And then Grant continues, "This is good. Here we are in the worst place in the world, and we're not even getting paid."
Well, now that you mention it, is Udesky getting... Oh, no, Udesky is getting paid, that's right, because I forgot it back at the plane. He says that we're all good as soon as you get me that check. So he's being paid. He got paid up front. He was smart.
Well,
I'm sure that's something they do in that business where you want to get paid up front in that business.
Well, especially when you got to supply equipment, you got to hire the plane, and we'll get to it a little bit later in the script because it's definitely brought out. Udesky says here exactly how he was paid, so.
He says back at the plane yard that he's talking to Paul Kirby and he's saying, "Oh yeah, I'll have everything set as soon as you get me that final payment." Yeah.
Which is interesting because in the script it's sort of he only got paid half up front. But we'll get there. Grant and Billy are sort of walk off in disgust after this, and Paul quickly follows, and he's sort of yelling at him. Udesky sort of goes off with with Alan and Billy as well, and Paul's left behind to yell, "Now, fellas, I'll make it up to you if you ever do a bathroom or a kitchen." And that's when we get a hard cut to them walking through the jungle. But it sort of makes you wonder again about what that figure on that check was, if Paul here thinks he could compensate by doing the renovation for a bathroom. that tells me it's probably 4 zeros or 4 figures on the check and not 5 or 6.
Oh, I would have. You saying every number. I'm asking. I want 1 through 10. All of them. All digits.
Yep. Yeah, you got a very large ledger there. Just fill it with numbers. But we do cut to jungle as Paul's caught up to Udesky, and he asks, "You're not a real mercenary, are you?" And Udesky responds, "I never said I was," which makes you wonder how that conversation went back then when he was looking for someone to help. And Paul realises and says that's true, and says, "So what are you?" Udesky says, I'm like a booking agent. One of the guys got sick and couldn't come," which sort of makes you wonder why that third person wasn't with Nash and Cooper at the airstrip when Udesky was booking it all, unless he was coming in from somewhere else.
Well,
obviously.
He might have already booked it or planned the charter or something and he was already setting up when the guy was already sick at that point.
But I suppose he's already taken the money from the Kirbys for a free man team, and he's gone, well, I'll just go along, maybe not believing the stories of the island. Don't know.
Tell you the truth, though, he's probably the luckiest guy in the group. Consider all the other mercenaries got killed. So, reminds me of in Apollo 13 when one of the astronauts got sick and he ends up not going on the doomed mission.
Yeah, forgive me for not knowing the real astronaut's name, but I think Gary Sinise I think he had appendicitis or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, history's full of stories like that where someone couldn't get on the Titanic before it sailed and survived, and all sorts of things. People not being able to make plane flights and the flights disappearing or crashing.
Yeah, really.
Time to buy a lotto ticket or two.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen stuff like that, close calls like that. One just happened in the next town over that made the national news. There was the crossing gates on the train crossing didn't go down.
Oh wow!
And so the train, a cop had to swerve and basically do a zero radius U-turn. Just as the train was crossing the tracks. I mean, that guy. That's the kind of thing I would go out and, like you said, buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah. Yep. One good thing here too is they're walking through the sort of scenery here. I just love how once again we've got this thick jungle back. We haven't really seen it since Muldoon's demise, like the whole getting to the maintenance shed. In the Lost World, it was a lot more open. We had the redwoods. Even when Dieter sort of gets down the stream, it's not that heavily forested when he falls down the ravine.
No.
I'm just trying to think. Even with the Tyrannosaur chase after they come back to the camp, you have sort of small patches of dense stuff like this where the Ian and that's sort of fall down off the elephant grass plain to the dinosaur graveyard.
In this instance, this is more like young saplings kind of dense. It's just small trees all around you instead of large trees like in the redwoods where here the trees are like a foot across instead of being a third foot across. And with like 6 foot fern fronds in between.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, everything over there is big, but because it's so big, you're so small. So it's like a mouse being among. It's like you're a mouse among a bunch of saplings.
Yeah. Plus, I suppose too, one of the biggest reasons why we haven't seen it this sort of dense before is just to film in, where they got gantries and trolleys and everything set up, and you got the actors. You want to do these long walk and talk shots, you need sort of a bit of open space.
True.
To do it.
Especially when you can build a set, you are able to plan to have the tracks for the camera to roll along and all that kind of stuff. Like in the Redwoods, they had to hike the track up there with them. And I mean, for example, the beauty shot the scan that we get of the herbivores running from the hunters on the game trail, and we get that first person, or we get that shot of Hammond's team watching them from the precipice. That is actually a very, very steep stairway up there, and I would not want to have been the camera guy to log all this equipment up this very steep, narrow, short staircase.
Well, that's it. Production's got to get all the camera mounts up there. They've got to do all that sort of stuff before the even actors get up there.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those staircases where you almost feel you should be using all four limbs to go up it.
Yeah. But it sort of goes back to the Lost World novel, where when Levon gets to Sauna, he enters the jungle and pretty much immediately drenched just from the wet leaves and that. Mm-hmm. I'd just love to see some real nice dense jungle like that in these films again.
Yeah.
But Paul's still fumbling with his pack, and Billy pushes past him, and he just says here and helps him with his backpack, and asks, "So you run a hardware store?" And Paul replies, "Paint tile, yeah." And Udesky scoffs, "You never can tell about people, can you?" And they begin to start walking again, and Paul says, "Ain't that the truth?"
I love that line just because of the irony of it.
Yeah.
Tell people tell about people, can you?
And this is sort of the start of the back and forth between Paul and Udesky, both coming from sort of comedic backgrounds as well. So.
Well, that's true, yeah. And I haven't really talked much about Udesky, but he is a great actor. I mean, not Udesky. Hold on, I can't believe I forgot his name.
Oh, Udesky's name.
Yeah, Michael Jeter. And that's one thing I do like about Michael Jeter, is that he is a great actor. You see him in other movies, and he's got a very good range as an actor, and that I consider that to be a mark of a good actor, where you can watch one actor across two movies and not tell they're the same guy, because they get into characters so well. And Gary Oldman is a good actor like that, in the way that he just plays different characters across his films. He has such a range that you would never guess Sirius Black was also Commissioner Gordon, was also the Prime Minister of England, you know?
And Emmanuel Zorg.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. You know, when he first came on the scene, we were talking sort of his background there. Even with all just the voice acting in the cartoons, he used to do background this time as well when he done this film. Just being a voice actor, definitely, for the most part, gives you that range.
Yeah. I mean, on a visual level, I remember seeing him in, what was that Costner Western? He was in a Western movie, Open Range. You watch him in Open Range, and he runs a stable for the horses, and you'd never guess that was Michael Jeter. I mean, he just has that range. You would never have guessed that was Michael Jeter in that role, and then this is Michael Jeter here.
Well, and he's never before come across as that mercenary either, and here he's more matter of fact, and we get a little bit more with him in the coming minutes once we get to the parasail site and that. It's a shame of all the people that are killed. It's probably a shame to see him go out the most.
I agree. I mean, especially because I do like his character, and I do think that he didn't really need to be there, and that's the tragedy of it. He wasn't supposed to be there, and he was the one that dies.
Well, and that's again like, yes, okay, the others were mercenaries, but this isn't them going to capture, kill, or take home. This is just they're there to defend the Kirbys and help them find their son.
They're also there by choice. Udesky went really because he had no other choice.
Yeah. Oh, he could have gave some of the money back.
Yeah, but I mean, he was there to. He was there as the booking agent. It's not his fault that Paul Kirby misunderstood his role.
But we cut to Grant as sort of the foliage opens up a bit here. You sort of get some of that young forest. Amanda's shouting Eric's name once again. Grant sort of grumbles to her to be quiet. I don't think he quite knows what to do with them at the moment.
No,
But,
I think he just wants to get off the island. He wants to be anywhere but there. He'd rather be in Antarctica in the winter in board shorts than there.
Which sort of raises one little question: how do they know which way to go?
I don't know.
Like, if surely, well, the cockpit would have had a GPS, not a GPS, a compass.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, most aircraft have sort of even just a liquid compass, not a digital one, so you could smash it out so you could have a compass in your hand. But without knowing exactly where the airstrip is in relation to the island, you go, well, you're fair enough. If you walk long enough in one direction, you're going to come to the coast anyway. But with the earlier script where they were trying to get back to hopefully find where the parasailing boat had crashed or any other sign of boat wreckage they could use to get off the island.
I think that in the novel, in the first novel, Grant is described as this great kind. He's not like an adventurer, but he has a good sense of direction. And Ellie describes how I think it was to Hammond or Gennaro about that. Don't worry, Grant knows how to get out of a tough situation. He once walked all the way back to camp on a broken leg, just following the stars or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of implied here, where he knows where he's going based on a sense of direction. I kind of almost have that sixth sense myself. I've always been able to be good with directions. I'm always the navigator in the car. On road trips, I'm always the navigator.
Yeah, well, I think definitely once we get to the lab 2, where we've got that river that runs beside it, that's sort of, right, we're going to follow that then leads to the aviary, and the aviary leads out to the coast, so it'd make it a little bit easier once they get further along there. But Paul's walking along in front of Amanda, and he says, "Will you stop that?" Dr. Grant says this is very bad territory. And Amanda doesn't seem to care. Look, maybe we should split up or something, cover twice as much ground, which we know from previous films that's a bad idea. And Dr. Grant says that's a bad idea. So he must have already suggested it, and Grant shut him down once, where now Amanda's asking Paul about it, and he's just conveying, no, it's a bad idea. And we get Amanda start to complain a little bit here. Dr. Grant,